I'm Michael Connors. I'm the Albany County Comptroller. That's Connors, C-O-N-N-E-R-S. It's the second. My next to last opportunity to see all of you as Comptroller. So these will work the way they're set up?
Yes, sir.
Do you guys need that?
Sure.
Take the cheaters off so I can actually see. Going to read a statement. We'll either hand it out or email it to you, and then I'll take questions after the statement. Okay? Our office, the Department of Audit and Control, received numerous complaints of time abuse in 2017 and 2018. Most of these complaints were made anonymously, alleging rampant use of county employees for the primary in 2015, punching in and going home, and then returning at the end of the day to punch out, seldom showed jobs, and other irregularities concerning time and attendance. We began investigating the allegations and spoke with a number of individuals who feared retaliation and would not come forward for whistleblower protection provided by Resolution 22 of 1992. That is not attached, but we'll get it for you. That fear is warranted and real. As Albany County Comptroller, I'm charged with the duties of certification of the payroll. My signature is actually on the check issued by the county, and perform the duties of Chief Fiscal Officer. A portion of the Albany County Charter section dealing with powers and duties of the Comptroller is in Article 4, Section 403, and part of those duties, just a few of them are enumerated below. Rather than bore you by reading them, those are the duties that guarantee us access to records, books and records of the county. After numerous interviews, we believe there was a problem and commenced the search of the Albany County Time and Attendance System, Kronos. That's the system we use to punch in 4-digit number. It records your entry and exit for work. And in preparation for an audit of the Human Resources Department record keeping for payroll. Our office discovered in the early spring of 2018 that we had our access to the countywide information on Kronos blocked by Human Resources Department. We were limited to viewing the information of only our department's information, and previous to this, we did have access and full access to the Kronos time and attendance system for the entire county payroll. Several attempts via email and meetings were unsatisfactory for gaining access to countywide Kronos time and attendance system. Several spurious reasons were advanced by Human Resources and later by the Department of Law for refusal to reinstate our full access as allowed for by the Albany County Charter. Naturally, efforts to hide information raises several red flags. The denial and delay of our right to this important information, this important payroll information, by the executive and his appointees has created great expense and effort to obtain the actual payroll information. Our office instituted a full-fledged audit in the fall of 2018. Challenges to our legal standing to perform such an audit and access to the payroll information forced us to retain independent counsel. We actually retained a former federal prosecutor and their firm to protect the powers and duties of our office. The purpose of an audit is to perform an official examination of books and records, especially financial records. The Department of Audit and Control performs this function for Albany County and retains outside auditors, independent auditors, to check our work. With a payroll of over $130 million, the taxpayers, the Albany County Legislature, and the other separately elected officials need to know people are actually performing the duties and the tasks they're being paid to perform. We've identified a number of areas of concern which we are further exploring before reaching any conclusions. These include numerous problems with the Albany County adherence to the last published employee handbook circa 1999. Employees working on the executive's campaign during hours. Those employees were being paid by the County of Albany. Employees being paid in titles and line items in the county budget that they did not hold the minimum qualifications of to be employed in those professional titles. Non-attorneys in an attorney position, non-engineers in an engineer position, non-registered nurses in a nursing position. Several selected employees were being paid out of 2 different payroll lines in items within several budgets. Employees were being paid for more hours than they actually worked. Employees being paid out of title pay to avoid being reported as overtime, another way to circumvent the oversight of the legislature. Payroll liaisons, the people that actually take care of your time and attendance, not being able to verify hours worked and not actually being at the physical location the employees they attested to working were located at. You'd have somebody down here attesting to somebody working for the county at Warner's Lake or some other remote location. So the legislative budgeting practices were routinely being circumvented over several years, blocking transparency of budgets and of salaries. The Human Resources Commissioner engaged in verifying hours worked for special employees, highly unusual. Civil service being circumvented for special appointments. Certifications and licenses for certain jobs were not observed. The Albany County Handbook has not been updated since 1999, despite several requests by the legislature, other elected officials. After multiple threats to our office from the administration's top political advisor, we retained a forensic auditor through our law firm to assist in the review and avoid the appearance of bias. Well over 12 million payroll entries have been reviewed by our firm's forensic auditor. We'll be asking the Albany County Legislature to review our findings when they're completed and suggest that legislative action be taken to close gaps that may have been abused. Update the outdated personnel policies and procedures. Ensure that payroll liaisons only complete time and attendance entries for people they actually see, end payment for employees who do not actually work the number of hours claimed, and forbid the circumvention of the Albany County budget process of paying people from more than one line, for being paid from professional lines that a person has no legal certification, and for bypassing the civil service office. Hopefully the county executive will cease challenges to our access to this information and allow the employees that we asked to interview to cooperate with our audit. I believe it's 14 or 15 people. My 6 terms as in this office as leader of the Department of Audit Control and Albany County Comptroller are fast approaching the graduation date of 12/31/2019. It has been a tremendous honor and a privilege and a sacred duty to serve the people of Albany County. It appears that I've been fortunate enough to live long enough to be the longest tenured elected Chief Fiscal Officer of Albany County since 1683. And I must note that one of the early pieces of legislation I introduced in 1992, which was disregarded, were term limits. So those unhappy with me being here could have been rid of me 12 years ago had they passed that legislation. Our family of immigrants, Irish and German immigrants, have been blessed to be public servants, and it's been an honor and a privilege. I want to thank you, the people of Albany County, the employees especially, all the elected officials I've been privileged to serve with. God bless all here. I'll take some questions if you have any.
Is anyone's job at risk here as the investigation continues? Are any of these offenses fireable?
If final conclusions are there, the employee handbook, the 1999 employee handbook forbids many of these activities.
Okay, so that means yes, in short?
Well, it would depend obviously on the execution and the adherence to those rules.
Why do you think the county executive has attempted to block the investigation?
Well, I say challenge because it's a nicer word and my attorney allows me to use that word. I would suspect it's a normal thing for the executive to be leery of any comptroller looking through things that could be embarrassing. It could be an issue over powers and duties of the office. I think that if you look at it, the attorneys we hired actually got us access to Kronos after they went through the full process of building and filing an Article 78 lawsuit. And 5 minutes before that was to be dropped on the courthouse steps, the county backed off. So I think one of the things for the block is that I've got a short shelf life, so if they block it, I'll be gone. And we've been working on this since early 2018, but we will complete this audit or review before the end of my term of office.
What kind of legislative measure could neutralize these kinds of actions?
Well, I think one of the things that would happen is if the legislature puts a policy in that we can't pay people for more hours than are working. I think the idea of you can't pay people out of two lines, that's got to stop. The legislature can do that. They control the budget. The county executive proposes, the legislature recommends, the legislature votes on it, the county executive vetoes items that he sees fit, the legislature overrides those vetoes or not, and then that budget is passed, and then every municipality in Albany County passes their debt levy after that. So I would think that the legislature would want to have control of what the actual salaries are. There was a big fight over this in the early 1990s, and the legislature decided to have control over personnel practices so it couldn't be abused. But I don't think any legislator really is aware of people being paid simultaneously from two separate lines for the same hours of work.
So,
May I?
Yeah.
Just to follow up on that, if the legislature is responsible for personnel decisions, if these are considered fireable offenses, who's going to be responsible for firing?
Okay, I want to just twist a little bit, change a little bit what you said. The people responsible for administering employees are the executive branch, the separate elected officials. The legislature is responsible for setting the policy, passing the budget and setting the levy, and then reviewing the implementation of that policy. So if anybody is going to be at risk on this, it would be the separate elected officials. For example, one of them has said they're turning this over to their internal affairs unit when it's completed. So you'll have different people responsible for different people. Does that answer the question?
I think so.
We'll go ahead, ask a follow-up then.
So if, for example, it is County Executive McCoy's office, it would be an internal affairs group that's investigated that would be responsible?
I didn't say who it was.
Well, if, that's just an example.
Right.
You don't have to say, I know you're not going to tell us who it is.
That's correct. I would like to, but we paid a lot of money for outside counsel, and I have to respect the process. And, you know, redemption, there's always the chance that the county executive will see the wisdom of the points we've laid out and work with us so we can complete this and let the people who are responsible for some of these actions be interviewed. Our attorney sent a letter out requesting interviews and got a letter back saying no thanks from the law department.
Why do you think so many of these folks were afraid to come forward despite offering whistleblower protections for them?
Well, one of the people that did come forward got waxed for about $9,000 over the period of a year and a half. There have been people who have been removed, so there is a real fear of that, and people's livelihood is dependent upon it. So they really can't. You know, it's very hard for somebody to do the right thing when your family's livelihood is dependent upon that, and more importantly, in the county, your family's health insurance is dependent upon your employment. So those are very serious issues. But we have interviewed dozens of people, and high up in the administration, a few, and you know, we feel confident that we can ask direct questions to employees that have allowed this to happen to find out why it was allowed.
You said your audit will be complete before you leave office, so what happens after
Auditor review.
auditor review?
Right. Well, what'll happen after that, let's just say that we've had this before. Back in 2004, we did an audit of the nursing home, and there was real problems with money being diverted from the nursing home to downtown to actually cut taxes. So we couldn't get the administration at that time, different county executive, to cooperate. So we released a review, a draft audit that did not have their chance to do a rebuttal. However, the Department of Health and Human Services at the federal level, at our request, brought in the Office of Inspector General, provided an audit, and we were one of the 3 counties countrywide mentioned in their testimony about abuses of the Medicaid system in 2005 or 7, whatever it was. So something will happen. The other thing is that I'm escaping. Knock on wood, I'm not dropping dead. I'll be around. And I think there are a lot of legislators who are going to be surprised when they see the documentation on this. There's some tremendous work been done by forensic auditors, and there's a lot going, so stay tuned.
What's up next? Immediately after this press conference is over? what
Well,
do you
I think the next step is, we'll communicate this to the legislature in writing. We'll send this to the legislature, to the county executive, to the sheriff, to the district attorney, to the coroner's office, and to the clerk. And our office, I already sent it to my office, so they've all received this. In my office, there's only 3 people who worked on this audit, and the reason for that is that I'm leaving, and I don't want people being fired by my successor because they were involved in this audit. So we've already retained counsel for those people in advance should that happen. So we've kept it on a very close hold, so a lot of my office doesn't know what's been going on. They know there's been a lot of work done, and they know there are several boxes of a file in my office that have been under lock and key and also on camera. So it's going to be a surprise to them too.
Is your successor in the loop on this?
No. I've cooperated at great length with my successor on the transition, and she has said on your station that she didn't think this is important or worthwhile. She did ask if I was going to complete this before I left. I said absolutely. So we'll send her a copy of this also. But she's at a conference I suggested she attend on fraud for the next 2 days. So she'll get a copy as well. And we'll hit her transition team, whom we provided an office for in our office.
So the odds of this continuing with the same amount of vigor after your departure, not great?
Not great by the Department of Audit Control, but by Citizen Connors, yes. I'm not going away. Yes, sir.
Do you have a time frame for release of the audit?
I'd like to do it in 2 weeks. When I say audit, it may only be a review. If the county executive does not participate, then you can't have the lively exchange that takes place, their chance to write a rebuttal to our findings, our chance to correct mistakes we would have made that they said, no, you're wrong on this, you're wrong on that, you fix those, and then we respond to their rebuttal as well. That's the normal process. The big part of an audit is the findings and the recommendations to correct those. We feel that legislative action will be required on some level to prevent some of these things from occurring again. Any other questions? Thank you all very much, and have a great Thanksgiving.